Sicily has always been a crossroads. Not just an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, but the middle of everything. For thousands of years, people have come here to settle and conquer. Every culture that passed through left a mark. The Greeks built theatres and temples. The Romans decorated their villas with intricate mosaics. The Arabs planted citrus groves and left behind spice-laced cuisine. And the Normans constructed imposing cathedrals. Nowhere else in Europe do you see such a vivid blend of cultures side by side. Civilizations came and went, empires rose and fell, their walls crumbled, their names faded. Yet compared to the force of nature, all the centuries of human history feel small, just moments, brief interruptions. The Greeks, the Romans, the Normans, their monuments are measured in centuries, Etna in millennia. Locals call it simply the mountain, as if no other could compare. More than 3,300 metres, almost 11,000 feet, the tallest volcano in Europe and one of the most active on Earth. For 3 millennia, people have watched it erupt. The Greeks saw fire flowing down its slopes and built myths to explain it. They said it was the forge of Hephaestus, the blacksmith god. Romans told their own stories linking Etna to the underworld, and in a way, they weren't wrong. Etna erupts in many forms, gentle fountains of lava glowing like rivers of fire, or explosions that send ash miles into the sky. Villagers on its slopes live with the constant risk that everything they know could vanish in a night. Yet people never leave. They plant vineyards and orchards in its rich volcanic soil. Because Etna doesn't only destroy, it also gives. The ash makes the land fertile. Volcanic slopes create microclimates perfect for citrus and grapes. Some of Sicily's best wines are born here. And in the shadow of the giant lives, Catania. The people here have never been able to ignore their smoking neighbour, building homes from its stone. The story begins more than 2,700 years ago. The Greeks founded a settlement in the 8th century BC, part of their expanding world of colonies across Sicily. Later, the Romans arrived. They left an amphitheatre large enough for 15,000 people, hidden now between modern streets. But Etna has no respect for empire. In 1669, the mountain erupted for 4 months straight. Lava poured down the slopes, racing toward the city. Only Catania's massive walls stopped it from entering. Instead, the lava flowed around them, encircling Castello Ursino, that once stood on the shoreline. Catania barely survived. And then, just decades later, in 1693, an earthquake leveled what was left. Most cities would have vanished. Catania reinvented itself. The Spanish rulers of Sicily ordered a grand reconstruction. Wide boulevards were drawn across the rubble. Palaces rose again, but this time in Baroque stone. In the middle of Piazza del Duomo stands a black stone elephant carved from lava, carrying an Egyptian obelisk on its back. No one really knows where it came from. Some say it was built in Roman times. Others claim it's older, a relic of Phoenicians or even more ancient settlers. Over the centuries, the elephant became Catania's symbol. The earthquake of 1693 did not stop in Catania. It tore through an entire region. Villages vanished, towns collapsed. In just minutes, much of southeastern Sicily was leveled. Tens of thousands of lives were lost. It was one of the most devastating disasters in Italian history. But out of the destruction came something unexpected: a rebirth. The Val di Noto, the broad valley of southeastern Sicily, became the canvas for one of the greatest urban redesigns of the Baroque age. Instead of rebuilding exactly as before, the Spanish viceroys and local nobles made a choice. They would create something new. Streets would be wide, open to light and air. Towns would be laid out in perfect grids, each piazza crowned with monumental churches and palaces. Noto itself is considered the capital of this new style, named Sicilian Baroque. Houses are carved from golden limestone that glows at sunrise and sunset, giving the whole town a warm, honeyed light. The centerpiece is the Cathedral of San Niccolò, a vast, commanding church at the heart of the new city. Construction began in the early 18th century, and like much of Noto, it was shaped by Baroque visionaries such as Rosario Gagliardi. The facade is a harmony of columns and pilasters, crowned by twin towers. In 1996, its dome and part of the nave suddenly collapsed. The reconstruction, completed in 2007, became a symbol of Noto's determination to preserve its identity. Across from the cathedral lies the Palazzo Ducezio, the town hall. Built beginning in 1746, it was designed by architect Vincenzo Sinatra, a student of Gagliardi. The palazzo's curved arcade forms a perfect counterbalance to the cathedral's vertical lines. But perhaps no other town in the valley embodies the duality of destruction and rebirth more than Ragusa. It's really two towns in one. The upper city, Ragusa Superiore, was laid out after the earthquake, with straighter streets and a more modern plan. But below, clinging to the ridge and spilling into the valley, is Ragusa Ibla. The old heart of the city, rebuilt on its ancient foundations. At the heart of Ibla stands the Cathedral of San Giorgio. Again designed by Rosario Gagliardi, it embodies resilience in stone. Built in the early 1700s, the cathedral rises from a wide staircase that seems to lift it above the town itself. A grand dome, added in the 19th century, crowns the skyline seen from almost any street and square. The earthquake forced choices. Some citizens wanted to abandon Ibla altogether and start fresh. Others clung to their land, their walls, their streets. The result was division. Two Ragusas, but San Giorgio gave Ibla purpose again. Around it, life reorganized, palaces rebuilt, narrow alleys filled with people. Another Baroque town, Modica, doesn't spread out. It climbs. Houses are stacked against the cliffs, linked by steep staircases. And if Ragusa has San Giorgio as its heart, Modica answers with its own. The Cathedral of San Giorgio of Modica, another elaborate Baroque giant. The earthquake of 1693 hit here just as hard, and the rebuilding carried the same message. Faith couldn't be shaken. The church rises on 250 steps. Climb them and the facade grows larger with each tier. A vertical wall of columns and curves. Inside, the cathedral stretches in pale limestone light. Chapels, altars, and paintings line the nave. Another marker of Modica's history is the Castello dei Conti. Today, many of its structures are ruinous, but the silhouette still dominates parts of the skyline. The famous clock tower was installed in 1725, atop what had once been a military watchtower in the castle complex. The mechanical clock, gears, weights, counterweights, still functions, adjusted, maintained even today. To the north, the Greek Theater of Taormina clings to the cliffs. Catania saw it from the plain. Taormina sees it from the sky. The view is different, majestic, framed by the Ionian Sea, the rooftops, the jagged cliffs below. And the theatre itself is enormous. Seats rise in perfect arcs, carved from stone that has felt the sun for more than 2 millennia. But it's not a lifeless ruin. In summer, concerts take over. Opera, classical music, modern performances. But Taormina's fame doesn't rest only on antiquity. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Grand Tour drew European aristocrats to the Mediterranean. The town became a destination for those seeking romance. And by the early 20th century, it grew in a luxury resort. The heart of Taormina is Piazza Nuove Aprile, a terrace suspended between sky and sea. Down below lies Isola Bella, a tiny island connected to the mainland by a narrow strip of sand. Once privately owned, it's now a nature reserve, a symbol of Taormina's blend of natural beauty and cultivated elegance. A few kilometres inland, lava flows from Etna thousands of years ago met the cold river waters, shaping the Gole dell'Alcantara, a canyon unlike anything else in Sicily. Basalt walls, black and striated, rise 40 metres high, sometimes more. Smooth, polished by centuries of rushing water. Straight columns, jagged shards, natural walls that seem sculpted by an artisan's hand. Inside, the air is cooler, humid. Echoes carry differently here. Even the river has a voice. Visitors come from all over, but the place never feels crowded. The Alcantara River snakes through the gorge, waterfalls and hidden corners. The name dates back to the Arab period from the term Alcantara, referring to a Roman bridge that once spanned the river. Off Sicily's northern coast, 7 volcanic sisters are scattered across the Tyrrhenian. Each shaped by the same restless earth that lifts Mount Etna to the sky. The Aeolians are not just places, but factories of the earth. The African plate pushes under the Eurasian. Magma rises and the sea gives birth to islands of fire and stone. Each of them is a different experiment. Some still erupting, some sleeping, all alive in their own way. Lipari shows the economic side of geology. For thousands of years, its obsidian was traded across the Mediterranean, sharper than steel, as valuable as gold. Later, local pumice was shipped worldwide, used in everything from toothpaste to polishing stone. The island is dormant but not extinct. Today, no lava erupts, but fumaroles and underwater vents still hiss, reminding everyone that the system beneath is alive. Vulcano sits just south, giving name to all the volcanoes in the world. The island is dominated by the Gran Cratere, a wide summit bowl lined with steaming vents. Fumaroles hiss constantly, and the ground is warm underfoot. In ancient times, this was considered the forge of Hephaestus, god of fire. The last major eruption was in 1888 when ash explosions turned day into night. Even now, sulfur fumes sting your nose and mud pools bubble. And then there is Stromboli, the most dramatic of them all. Known as the lighthouse of the Mediterranean, it has been erupting almost continuously for the last 2,000 years. Explosions happen every 15 minutes, throwing fountains of fire hundreds of meters into the air. Ancient sailors navigated by its glow. Today, boats gather offshore at night to watch nature's fireworks. Meanwhile, back on the mainland Sicily, a limestone giant rises out of the sea. The Greeks called it simply the headland. And that makes sense. That rock, La Rocca, indeed looks like a giant head, half buried underground. At its feet, Cefalù spreads wide along a golden crescent of sand. From the water, it looks like a painting, red-tiled roofs, medieval walls, and a cyclopic cathedral, the soul of this place. Roger II, Norman King of Sicily, made a promise to God in the middle of a storm. "Save me, and I'll build you a church." He landed here in 1131 and kept his vow. He didn't build small. The Cathedral of Cefalù is fortress and temple all at once. Twin towers, strong and stark, dominate the skyline. Inside, one of the greatest Byzantine mosaics in the world. Christ Pantocrator, his face huge, golden, all-seeing. The kind of art that makes you feel very small, but also strangely cared for. The Normans may have left their mark in Cefalù, but in Palermo they ruled. This was their capital. Palermo is not quiet. It was never meant to be. This city has always thrived in noise and chaos. The Phoenicians were here first. They called it ziz, the flower. Carthaginians ruled after them, until the Romans arrived. Later came the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Normans, the Spanish. Each left something behind. Palermo isn't one city. It's all of them, stacked together. We see it in the cathedral, Arab-style domes, Norman arches, Gothic towers, a Baroque facade, no symmetry, no single vision. The Norman palace, the Palazzo dei Normanni, feels solid and square. Inside, the Palatine Chapel glows with gold. Byzantine mosaics cover every surface. Above, wooden ceilings carved in Islamic style. Every culture that passed through Palermo left its mark here as well. Palermo is chaotic, yes, but also magnetic. It doesn't try to be perfect, and that's exactly what makes the city unforgettable. In a small town to the north stands one of Sicily's greatest treasures, the Cathedral of Monreale. It was built in the 12th century under William II, the Norman King of Sicily. Legends say that William fell asleep under a carob tree. The Virgin Mary appeared to him in a dream and told him where to build a church. William woke, and Monreale Cathedral was born. From the outside, the building is almost austere. Strong Norman walls, Arab-inspired arches, a fortress-like silhouette. But step inside, and the world changes. Nearly every surface glows with mosaics. Gold everywhere, 2 acres of it glittering in candlelight. The central image again is Christ Pantocrator, his hand raised in blessing, his face serene and stern at once. Around him, scenes from the Old and New Testaments unfold, told in glass and stone, each detail still alive after 8 centuries. The Norman king's vision of divine order cast in stone feels eternal. But Sicily's story of faith stretches back much further, long before the Normans, long before Christ. Out in the Western Hills, another sacred monument rises, older, simpler, and just as powerful. Segesta. 2,400 years old, built in the 5th century BC by the Elymians, one of Sicily's native peoples. From a distance, the temple may look complete, but it was never finished. No roof, no inner chamber. Work stopped suddenly. Was Segesta trying to impress Greek allies with a project it never intended to complete? Or was it interrupted by war, maybe with Selinunte, its powerful neighbour and rival? History doesn't say. Higher on Monte Barbaro, we find more of Segesta's story. There, cut into the slope, sits a theatre. From its stone seats, the view stretches wide. Rolling hills, the Tyrrhenian Sea in the distance, mountains hazy on the horizon. The Elymians are gone, their name nearly lost to history. Yet the temple still stands, stronger than memory and the people who built it. Their rival, the Greek colony of Selinunte, was founded in the 7th century BC and soon became one of Sicily's largest and most powerful cities. Position on a low plateau by the sea made it a natural gateway. Trade routes linked the colony to Carthage, Greece, and the wider Mediterranean world. At its height, more than 30,000 people lived here, and the temples they left behind still show the scale of that ambition. The archaeological park today is vast, the largest in Europe. Walking through it feels like crossing an entire lost city. Temple E, dedicated to Hera, still stands tall, its restored Doric columns giving a sense of what Selinunte looked like at its peak. The fallen blocks of other temples sprawl across the earth, massive in scale, too heavy to be lifted without cranes today. From the Acropolis, we can see how the city looked both inward to its farms and walls, and outward to the waves that carried wealth and danger. In 409 BC, Carthage attacked with overwhelming force. The city was left broken and never regained power. Earthquakes later toppled what remained. Selinunte shows the cost of ambition, a city that dreamed too big and paid the price when enemies struck. But further east, another Greek colony rose with the same hunger for greatness and managed to outlast them all. Agrigento, known in antiquity as Akragas. It was monumental. Founded in the 6th century BC by settlers from Gala, the city grew quickly, taking advantage of fertile lands. The proof is carved in stone. On the ridge south of the modern city lies the Valley of the Temples, a sacred avenue lined with colossal sanctuaries. Concordia, with its nearly perfect Doric columns, is one of the best preserved temples in the Greek world. Juno stands nearby, scarred by fire but still proud. The Temple of Heracles shows only fragments, yet even those few columns radiate strength. Akragas was also assaulted by Carthage, yet here enough survived to make the valley one of the most breathtaking archaeological sites in the world. But the island's story doesn't stop there. Centuries later, a different empire left its mark. In the heart of Sicily, surrounded by rolling hills, stands Piazza Armerina. Narrow medieval streets climb steep slopes, churches crown the skyline. The Normans rebuilt it after the Arabs, and their mark still dominates the town. The Baroque cathedral rises on the highest hill, its massive dome visible for miles. But Piazza Armerina is known above all for what lies just outside it. At first, it was nothing more than a rumour. Locals knew the land hid something, but the full truth lay sealed beneath the earth. Only systematic excavations in the 20th century finally revealed it, not just a villa, but one of the most extraordinary Roman residences ever built. The landslide that once buried it had become a salvation, protecting the largest collection of mosaics in the Roman world. Hunts, myths, and daily life play out under your feet. The villa was designed not just for living, but for spectacle. Heated baths, banquet halls, everything aligned to remind guests of Rome's wealth and power. From the valley below, Erice looks like a fortress in the sky. And for most of its history, that's exactly what it was: a military outpost and a religious sanctuary. The earliest people here were the Elymians, one of Sicily's ancient tribes. Later, the Greeks claimed this peak for Aphrodite. The goddess of love had her temple here. When Christianity spread, the old temple fell, but its stone lived on. The Normans built the Castle of Venus in the 12th century on the same site. The ruins are still there, standing at the cliff's edge. Nearby, medieval streets twist through the town, lined with stone houses and small piazzas. Erice was once called the city of 100 churches. That number is exaggerated, but religion left a mark. The Chiesa Madre, built in the 14th century by Frederick of Aragon, still dominates the skyline. For thousands of years, Erice has been many things. A sacred site, a fortress, a medieval town, reflecting the layers of Sicily itself. Below, the land flattens into a shimmering grid. Squares of water stretch toward the horizon, divided by thin stone walls. These are the ancient saline of Trapani and Marsala. Salt has been harvested here for over 2,000 years. The Phoenicians were the first to see the potential of this shallow shoreline. They built channels to let seawater in and basins to trap it. Evaporation left behind crystals of pure salt. In medieval times, entire economies were built on this white gold. Even today, the salt pans still operate, much as they did centuries ago. Workers use wooden rakes to gather the crystals. Some are covered in terracotta tiles to protect them from rain, giving the fields a surreal, patterned look. The windmills once pumped water between basins and ground-harvested salt. A few have been restored, not for work, but for memory. What's striking is not just the beauty, but the continuity. People here are still harvesting salt by hand, using methods developed thousands of years ago. On Sicily's southern coast, the cliffs don't rise in the usual shades of sand or stone. They rise white, blinding white. Scala dei Turchi, the stare of the Turks. The name carries a story. For centuries, Saracen and Ottoman raiders, often called Turks in Sicily, sailed these waters. Local legends say their ships found shelter here, anchoring in the natural bay beneath the cliffs. From the sea, the rock looks like a ramp, an easy path up from the waves. Whether or not they actually climbed it, the legend stuck. What makes Scala so striking is its geology. It isn't limestone and it isn't chalk. It's marl, a soft sedimentary rock made of clay and carbonate. Rain and wind smoothed it into terraces and ledges like frozen waves rolling toward the sea. The cliff stretches for hundreds of metres, curving gently along the shoreline and towering more than 15 metres above the beach. Photographers and filmmakers have used Scala dei Turchi as a backdrop. It even appears in Andrea Camilleri's famous Inspector Montalbano novels. Named after Saint Vitus, San Vito Lo Capo traces its origins back to the 16th century when a fortified tower was built to guard against pirates. Over time, a town grew around it, a string of houses along the coast and a small port sheltered by the promontory of Mount Monaco. For most of its history, San Vito was just another fishing village. For centuries, life moved slowly here, a remote, forgotten corner of Sicily that barely appeared on maps. But then, the world discovered its beach, one of the rare stretches of true sand on an island of rugged cliffs. Little by little, San Vito transformed. Fishing boats gave way to hotels, narrow alleys filled with restaurants. Tourism took over. Today, this once peaceful village is one of Sicily's prime beach destinations, a postcard version of Mediterranean life. Across the island, on the eastern coast, Syracuse was founded in 734 BC by Greek colonists from Corinth. It quickly became one of the most powerful cities of the ancient Mediterranean. Its wealth and influence rivaled Athens. Syracuse was a hub of philosophy and science. Archimedes, born here, would change the world forever. The heart of the city is Ortigia, a small island connected to the mainland by bridges. Narrow streets twist between palaces and churches. On the Piazza del Duomo rises Syracuse Cathedral, a Baroque masterpiece, but its story stretches back millennia. Built over a Doric temple dedicated to Athena, its walls still hold the original columns, trapped within stucco and arches. Just beyond the island lies the Neapolis Archaeological Park, a vast open-air museum of Syracuse's classical past. The Greek Theater, carved directly into the hillside in the 5th century BC, could seat 15,000 spectators. Close by lies the Roman amphitheatre. Its purpose was different: gladiatorial combat, displays of power, the spectacle of empire. And then there is the Ear of Dionysius, a cave cut from limestone, arched like a giant ear. Its acoustics are perfect. Whisper at one end, and it echoes like thunder. The story goes that Dionysius the tyrant used it to spy on prisoners, catching every word. True or not, the place carries a strange charge. Even empty, it feels like someone is listening. Sicily is not the carefully staged version of Italy you might expect. It feels unfinished. And that's its charm. Every culture that passed through left a trace, and all of it now stacked together into something you can't mistake for anywhere else. Sicily doesn't try to be perfect. It doesn't need to. Its beauty comes from contrast, from the chaos and the way centuries are folded into each other. That's what makes the island unforgettable.